4 miles up. That, at any rate, was the theory. Under combat conditions, with German fighters whipping past, exploding flak shells, rocking the plane, and the bomber's guns chattering around him, the bombardier had a hard time living up to the pickle barrel boast. The bombardiers had another task to perform before their ground duties were finished. They crawled into the yawning bomb bay of each plane and fitted fuses into the 10 500-pound bombs hanging there. Guns and bombs in place, the fortresses were now weapons of mass destruction. The flyers waited nervously, clustering around the bombers, smoking and talking and trying not to think of what lay ahead. At last, it was time to take their stations. As a flare shot upward from the control tower, each pilot and co-pilot began the complicated operation of bringing a 27-ton flying fortress alive. Engine cooling flaps, fuel valves, carburetor controls, propeller settings. These and scores of others were checked or adjusted. Then, each co-pilot pushed the button to start his number 1 engine. The 4 engines were numbered from left to right and started in that order. As the electric starter turned the propeller, fuel was pumped into the engine. Then the co-pilot flipped the switch to mesh propeller and engine, like putting a car into gear, and number 1 caught with a roar and a cloud of exhaust smoke. The operation was repeated for the other 3 motors. All around the edge of the field, fortresses coughed into life, 100 or so engines blending into a ragged and deafening chorus. Bottom turret gunners locked their guns facing rearward, clear for taxiing. The wheels were unblocked, and the B-17s began to trundle off their hard stands. It took a full hour to get the 20-odd planes of a bomber group lined up for takeoff, which meant more nerve-wracking waiting. Each pilot attached his plane in turn to the procession. Outboard engines racing and brakes squealing, the fortresses lumbered along, nose to tail, like circus elephants. Finally, at 9:30 a.m., came the flare signaling takeoff. 30 seconds apart, the B-17s roared down the runway and climbed into the morning sky. They tucked up their wheels and began to assemble in formation for the 350-mile flight to Bremen. The air armada grew as the 3 other bomber groups assigned to mission number 52 slipped into position. Exactly on schedule, climbing steadily, 115 flying fortresses crossed the English coast and headed out over the North Sea. At 10,000 feet, each crewman donned a rubber mask and plugged his air hose into the plane's central oxygen supply. Just as a porcupine rolls itself into a ball to present a compact mass of sharp spines to its enemies, the bomber formation tightened up as it neared the danger zone. Smoke spurted briefly from the planes as gunners test-fired their machine guns, the single guns stuttering abruptly, the twin guns in the turrets pounding in steady rhythm. A smell like that of spent fireworks drifted through the ships. The formation droned along 4 miles above the gray expanse of the North Sea. The airmen, grotesquely bundled in heavy boots, heated flying suits and gloves, helmets and oxygen masks against the 30 degrees below zero temperature, scanned their assigned sectors of sky for German fighters. The first sign of the enemy was unexpected and unnerving. Ahead and off to one side, a black-painted aircraft sauntered along, staying well out of range and obviously tracking the formation. It was a flying fortress repaired by the Germans after crash landing in Europe on a previous mission. This ominous sentinel was radioing the course, speed, altitude, and size of the attacking force to the Luftwaffe defense network. As the Frisian Islands off the Dutch coast appeared on the horizon, the black rogue fortress departed and was replaced by an unwelcome escort of German single-engine fighters that took over the spotting duties. The fighters skittered back and forth like insects on a